All right, jumping back into some more analysis on Patsy. Here we go.
Determine whether she knew or knew. Let me ask you this question. Are you a coffee or a tea drinker?
I
Generally.
drink both.
In the mornings, when you prepare yourself for the day, generally, what do you have, coffee or tea?
Usually coffee.
Could you just describe what would be a typical weekday for you when you get up in the morning?
Now or back in 1996?
Oh, I'm sorry. In 1996. Just a typical weekday morning. Who would normally get up first in the morning? Was John generally an early riser? Did you get up beforehand? That sort of thing. Go down and make coffee.
We're talking about a typical Monday through Friday
Yeah.
where the kids were in school.
Yeah, nobody's going
John
on
was
vacation.
going to work.
Right.
Can you do that, Patsy? You understand what he's asking?
Bruh, that's the simplest thing I'm asking you what you do on a daily basis. Like back in 1996, what do you do? Like, why are you looking at me like a deer in headlights? What do you do on a daily basis?
Just
In general, we get up, get the kids ready for school. He'd go to work. I would do things around the house or shopping or school volunteer work and pick up the kids, and that's about it.
When you get up in the morning, would you just generally dress first and go down and start preparing meals for the family, or would you go down, prepare the meals first, and then go get dressed?
It was probably no set pattern, but usually I'd dress first.
I'm sorry, you would dress
I would usually get dressed.
before you would go down to the kitchen to prepare meals?
Yes, usually. I can't say for sure, but
Okay, but
usually.
That there was so much hesitation in that. Yes, just in case. I don't know where you're going with this. Could this be something that you're about to use against me?
your best recollection. And then after you dressed and gone downstairs, normally what was the meal preparation like for your family?
Oh, she's locked in. She went like that and she was looking dead at him. She's locked in. Now she's back. I'm trying to figure out, what are you doing? This doesn't seem harmful. Lynn hasn't said anything, but I just want to make sure you're not trying to do something.
The kids would usually have cereal, I think, before school.
Mm-hmm.
Oatmeal sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Fruit, Pop-Tarts, whatever was around.
Okay, and you were generally dressed for the day by that time. And when that was done, then I just take it that you would just go about your business for the rest of the day, whatever that was.
Yes.
Did you ever prepare meals in a more informal way in the morning, like go down in, like, say, a black house coat with something that might have rose-colored flowers on it or whatever, that sort of thing? Ever prepare meals in the morning informally?
Probably. I don't know about the rose color robe you're talking about, but
Or the black robe with rose-colored, or anything like that,
Well, or anything like that.
or any type of clothing like that. All right.
What do you mean when you say anything, clothing like?
Well, I just
like a black robe with pink roses?
Well, Linda
What are you
Hoffman
asking?
Pugh once identified her as.
Why don't you just be direct and ask her a question if she owns such a robe and if she ever wore it? Go right at it.
Did you ever
Get
own
to the
a
question.
black house coat with pink roses on it, or a black robe? I don't know if it was a house coat or how you would describe it. I don't know how women identify these types of informal garments.
I can't remember. I know I have a white one with pink roses. I may have. I can't remember. I've had a
Okay.
lot of robes.
All right. With respect to Jean Benet, was pineapple a favorite meal of hers?
She liked fruit in general.
No particular fruit?
Just most any fruit.
Okay. And was that a preference for Burke also, fruit, like his sister?
He liked it. he likes fruit, but not as much as she did.
Do you know if JonBenet would play in the basement area?
Huh. Okay, so we just glossed over the fruit question. She just likes any kind of fruit. Yeah, but as a mom, I guess I'm asking you, what was your child's favorite fruit, right? Like if I were to say, does your child prefer pizza or hamburgers? Oh, well, or, she loves any kind of fast food. Yeah, but I guess what I'm asking you is, what's her go-to based off what you know from your daughter for the past 6, 7 years, almost 7 years, maybe? What's her go-to fruit that she would always ask for, or that she would want, or that you would set before her? And see, that's part of like the, you know, don't ask, don't tell, very limited information that I'm giving you, because she could have very easily volunteered and said, well, I like to feed the kids fruit quite often, because we know from what Burke said, Mom, even though she might do cereal or things of that nature, Mom likes to recommend fruit, and she likes to give us pineapples. And also, when Burke, at 10 years old, was asked this same question about the snacks, he also dodged it. What are the odds?
She did not play much in the basement.
She ever express an aversion to playing in the basement area?
An aversion?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. What was the basement area generally used for in the house?
Burke had a train set up in one area of the room of the basement. There was, and generally the rest of it was for storage of seasonal decorations, art supplies,
Right.
school project supplies, that kind of thing.
So if you didn't know what to do with something in the house, you just take it down, have it sent down to the basement. Was that the general storage area for things?
Largely, yes.
Because Linda Offenpugh has told me that that if you didn't know what to do with something in the house, you'd always say, "Take it to the basement." That was a favorite phrase of yours.
You're asking her whether Linda Hoffenpugh told you that, or whether that's
whether that's in fact a favorite phrase of hers.
Right. Let me ask you so that the record is clear. Would you rephrase that so she knows exactly what you're asking her?
Was the phrase "take it to the basement" a favorite phrase of yours if there was something in the house that you didn't know what to do with?
I can't say what is a favorite phrase or not. I'm sure I don't know what that is. But
frequently the solution to any problem about where to take or store anything in the house?
Probably so.
That was a bad question. A better question would have been more directly, did you often tell people or your housekeeper to take things down to the basement? I assume that's what he's talking about. Down to the basement when you needed, is that the proper place for storage? Also, I would like to hear more questions about the fact that the basement is unfinished and the state of the basement being unfinished. Is that why JonBenet didn't play down there like a lot? Why was this Burke's domain, but this wasn't JonBenet's domain?
With respect to the day in question, whose decision was it to call the police when you found the ransom note? Do you remember?
John and I, we just said, what do we do? Call the police. Mm-hmm. I don't know that it was specifically one decision or the other.
Whose idea was it to call all the people that eventually arrived, your friends or whatever, that came afterwards?
Oh, I did that.
Okay. Can you tell me why you did that?
It just seemed instinctive. It was just kind of a very stressful time, and I just called on friends.
Had you read the ransom note by that time?
I don't think I had read all of it, no.
Were you aware that it was a part in the ransom note where you were told not to contact authorities?
I think I read that later.
Did you think that there might be a chance that if you called a group of people over to the house and it was being observed, that the kidnappers might in fact see that you disobeyed the condition of their ransom note?
Well, that just didn't go through my mind at that time.
Okay.
Well, at that, if she's saying that she hadn't read the letter all the way through, then she would know. We don't yet know at this point when exactly she went all the way through within this deposition, when she went all the way through that information. But as of what she's saying right now, she didn't go all the way through it. And so she just saw a ransom note, maybe saw, we have your daughter, and she apparently didn't go straight to the phone, which is what I thought. I thought she went straight to the phone to just call off of instinct. It sounds like what she did was she gathered her thoughts and asked John what to do, which is really weird. Because I feel like I feel like any normal individual would have acted off of instinct to say, okay, immediately I have to go call the cops. We got to call somebody. Because, and I say this is, something's interesting about this, because you read a ransom note about your daughter being kidnapped, and it almost seems like you weren't as in as much of a state of panic as I expected. You talked to John and said, what should we do? As if there was a council, instead of saying, I yelled up to John and said, we got to call the police. And I just ran, to call the cops. You went and talked to John and consulted very calmly, seems like, and it doesn't have to be calmly. I'm not saying that it was calm, but I'm just saying it almost seems very collected. And then you said, okay, apparently John said, yeah, we should call the cops. And then you went down there and called the cops. But then the thing about it is, you consulted with John for the 911 call, according to what you're telling me. But then you immediately made the decision, almost immediately, to call your friends over without consulting John. You didn't say, do you think we should call our friends over? You immediately, instinctively made that decision. Why can you instinctively call your friends over, but you don't people who don't have anything to do with this for support over instinctively calling 911 without thinking? I'm concerned about what kind of powwow this is. That is my main concern. What kind of a powwow is this to where you say, I'm going to bring my friends over for support? I'm trying to figure that one out.
Were there any, I'm going to withdraw that. I don't know if it's going to be relevant. Okay, then what I'm going to do, because I don't think there's very much more about that particular day that I really want to go into that you haven't already given the way of statements that I've received. I just want to clarify a few things. Lynn has been very forthcoming in giving me discovery or whatever. So rather than rehash all of that, I just wanted to address a few questions. Now, I'm going to close the deposition by asking you one question. It's just I feel I'm obligated to do it, and then we're going to end the deposition unless there's something Lynn wants to add. And I'm just going to ask you a question, Mrs. Ramsey. Did you write the ransom note that was found on December 26th at your Boulder home?
I believe you've already asked me that, and I
just-
said
I'm
I
gonna
did
ask you.
not write the ransom note, no.
And did you have anything to do with the death of your daughter?
No, sir, I did not.
Okay, thank you. Finish.
For the record, I mentioned to you during the break that I think there has been, correct me if I'm wrong, one instruction on my part to Mrs. Ramsey not to answer a question. Am I right?
Yes.
That question went to making inquiry of her as to why she and her husband granted an interview to the National Enquirer. Since the last thing I want to do is to fight a motion battle over that, and because I have been consistent throughout in my representation of the Ramseys, as I think they have been even before I was involved in terms of trying to answer every question. If you will agree that we are not waiving any right to the question of relevancy in allowing her to answer that question, I'm going to let her answer it and effectively withdraw with that understanding my objection and instruction. Is that okay?
That's fine.
So with that agreement, if you'd like to ask her, and Patsy, if you would answer the question for him, please.
All right. I'm going to.
He when he asked her about the John Bonet's death and the writing of the ransom note, she didn't hesitate on those. She went into them pretty quickly, possibly because, I've had time to think of it. I've had time to digest it. And so I can just shoot it straight out. Nope. Nope. But you know what? The way she did it isn't like earlier police interviews when she was like, absolutely not. Like when she went on television and she was confronting, I think, one of the detectives, and she was like, absolutely not. How dare you? Like when she was looking at Barbara Walters, absolutely not. How dare you? And maybe it's because she's tired. It's been a long deposition. Maybe because she's tired.
Formally ask you. Mrs. Ramsey, I showed you a document that was identified as Plaintiff's Exhibit 13. I'm going to show that document to you again. Could you identify what it is that document purports to be?
They are copies from a tabloid article, National Enquirer tabloid article.
Would you characterize the statements that you made in this article as being statements that were made in the course of an interview, formal interview with the National Enquirer?
It was an interview in conjunction with some litigation for Burke that we were involved with.
They talked about that outside and then came back in to answer it.
If it was, see, this is why it's a tricky area. If it was for litigation, I don't want to go into what the litigation was about. And naturally, if she gave it for the purposes of the litigation, then she's required to by law. What
No, it was not given as a requirement of the litigation as a matter of law.
Oh, okay.
But I think what she's saying is that the issue about the interview came up in connection with actually the resolution of some of Burke's claims.
Because I don't want to get into if this was part of the settlement. If that's really what she's going to say, is that she agreed to this interview because it was part of a settlement agreement.
I
don't
agreed to
think
the
that's
interview
what she's saying.
because, I mean, we are not afraid to face even our most vile opponent, of which I consider the National Enquirer to be one of the most vile. And, we have faced Steve Thomas, we have faced the National Enquirer, we have nothing to hide, and I'm facing you today, Mr. Hoffman.
Okay.
I did not kill my daughter, I did not write the ransom note, and I don't know who did either of those things. And I'm not afraid to answer any questions from either you or from them or from the police department or for anyone else for that matter. And that's why the interview was taken.
Okay. The only reason I'd asked it was in relation to a statement that was made in the book about how disapproving you were of the tabloids. And
to this day, I disapprove of the
and also, I believe that Mr. Ramsey once stated that it was his intention to see that if anything came out of this case, it would be a change in the way in which the media reported certain news. And I was just wondering why, after these strong statements of principle, that you basically were willing to give a tabloid an interview. That's all, my only reason for
Because
asking
we
that.
wanted to prove that we have nothing to hide and that we can sufficiently face our most vile opponent.
Okay, thank you very much. Lynn, I have no further questions.
1 second. So that we are clear, because you have obviously done a good job of economically handling the time, despite some of the colloquy earlier in the day. It is clear on this record that you are completing well within the maximum 7 hours allowed
Yes.
by the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure. You understand we're willing to sit here for the
No, I
remainder of the
understand.
afternoon for however many hours and answer
Absolutely.
any questions. Now
Absolutely.
that we've made our one change of heart, you understand, Mr. Hoffman, that we have answered every question. Patsy Ramsey's answered any question you put to her and has expressed a willingness to stay for several more hours and answer any other questions, right?
Well, I do know that I'd have to review the transcripts, that you made certain objections over and above the objection with respect to that. And there
we
was
have
an
that-
ongoing colloquy between the two of us.
We have that transcript available on this computer.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure, because you've come a long way from New York, and there's a lot of lawyers that are here today, to make sure that Chris Wolf and his attorneys have had every opportunity to ask any question relevant to the claims or defenses in this case. And if you are
I'm going to stop it right there. First of all, Mr. Wood, there were, when we talk about the strategic positioning of legal counsel, basically, essentially what he did was they had time to see where Mr. Hoffman was going to go. They said, I'm going to instruct you not to answer this question now. We're going to wait. They're going to bring it back later on when I feel like there's no threat to it. We're going to bring it back. And so they did that in order to try to make it seem like, again, it's positioning in its strategy later on, if this deposition is used in anything, to say that, you know, we showed good faith, we had a great attitude, we answered every single question that you gave us, which is actually it's actually not true. There were a lot, as we know, there were a lot of questions that they sidestepped and they dodged and whatnot, but then went out, recomposed, got counsel, and came back and basically prepared the witness, or prepared Patsy on how to conduct herself, in order to say, now you have to answer these. I'm going to instruct you to answer these, and this is how you say it. Say it like this, or whatever. Say something to this effect. So I'm still kind of tripping off that little powwow of bringing friends over like it's a Christmas party at their home. Just the context, just the entire situation, from the picking up the note, the calling of the friends, is just a little weird to me. So, but anyways, that's the video. Like, share, subscribe, comment, let me know your thoughts. Again, appreciate the interaction, the exchange. Until next video, take it easy.